through that business setup. Well, they've done the exact same thing here in Mexico. So these large international banks, they hold the title in a trust that you fully control. And you can buy, sell, bequeath, lease, do whatever you want with it. And this system is the bank trust, or fideicomiso. The other way is Mexican company, and we'll get to that in a second. So this is the most common form of property ownership. This is what most people do. You can get title insurance, you can get 30-year, 25-year mortgages, and it's a form of property ownership that's pretty much been integrated into the financial system. It's just not the normal fee simple. So again, Mexican bank holds the title, and it's like a beneficiary trust. Now, these aren't just little Banana Republic banks. You're talking about major international banking conglomerates. BBVA, which is out of Spain, and they own Bancomer, the largest bank in Mexico. They also own Compass and Laredo banks here in Arizona and the rest of the U.S. Citigroup has banks down there. You have M&I Bank. You have a number of U.S. banks that are involved. So these are names that you know, and they're pretty stable, and that's another good thing. And then Stewart Title and First American Title also offer title insurance down there, just as they do in the United States. And so these are pillars of security, and it's another thing that's really broken down the barriers and allowed people to be comfortable accessing this new frontier. So went over that. Mexican company. For those of you who have multiple properties, one of the options that's available out there is to own a Mexican company. Now, any two Americans, and that includes an American company, can open up a Mexican equivalent of an LLC. And you don't need a Mexican partner. There's none of that. I have a Mexican company. One of the owners is myself. The other owner is my wholly owned LLC out of Nevada. And anyone here can do the same thing. With that, you can actually own the property directly without any bank trust through your Mexican company. And for people who have multiple properties, investments, and rental income, that can be a nice arrangement, another alternative. So, going over the Mexican market, why should we have confidence? Why is this new luxury frontier something that's really open to us? Well, the major players have put billions of dollars in line. People who have a lot at stake, have the incentive, and have real smart lawyers and analysts who look over this with a fine-tooth comb. GMAC, GE Capital, First American Title, Stewart Title, M&I, Compass Laredo, major players that you know are in the market. Mexico's self-interest requires the protection of this investment. Mexico's biggest part of the economy is oil. Well, they have a nationally owned oil company, and it hasn't been investing as it should. Plus, oil prices aren't what they used to be. And so that means that Mexico, everybody in the government knows that they have to focus on number two, and number two is foreign tourism investment. So they are courting Americans coming down there, and Canadians and other foreign citizens. They want you down there. They want your money, and frankly, they know that they can't survive long-term without it. So they would be shooting themselves in the foot otherwise. In addition, they're a NAFTA partner. 90% of Mexico's trade is with the U.S. or Canada. And NAFTA actually has a takings clause, just like the U.S. Constitution. So you would say, if you're talking to a British guy maybe, the British guy says, well, I want to buy in America. Well, why wouldn't the government just take my land away if they needed it? Well, the answer is that our Constitution says no takings. You can't take away somebody's land without paying them market compensation. Well, NAFTA actually has a similar clause that would apply to Americans or Canadians buying down there in Mexico. So a lot of security. And for all the funny things on the news, Mexico is actually a remarkably stable liberal democracy. It is 109 million people. It's the world's 14th largest economy. We're not talking about a banana republic. And it has a huge, well-educated and wealthy middle class. The world's wealthiest man, at least for a while wealthiest man, was from Mexico, Carlos Slim. So they have the malfortune of living right beneath the U.S. and Canada, possibly the two wealthiest nations in the world in terms of lifestyle. And so we have these perceptions, but relative to most of the rest of the world, Mexico is actually pretty wealthy. Mexican President Felipe Calderon is a conservative, business-oriented guy. He's going to be there for the next 4.5 years, and his party's doing really well. And finally, Mexico hates Hugo Chavez. You don't have any of that stuff down there in Mexico. So,
what did you say hates what?
Hugo Chavez, president of Venezuela. Yeah, they're actually enemies, don't get along, and their former president Vicente Fox got into a very public spat with Hugo Chavez, and right now the kind of the socialist side in Venezuela and kind of capitalist-leaning Mexico are opposite ends of the pole in Latin America. So what is next for this new luxury frontier? Well, 2006 brought Jack Nicklaus golf courses. 2007 brought a major border governors conference with U.S. and Mexican dignitaries. Arnold Schwarzenegger was there hanging out. This past year, the coastal highway to California was completed. There's a new highway linking Puerto Penasco to San Luis Rio, Colorado, and Yuma. That makes San Diego about a 5-hour drive. And that opens up a huge market in Southern California, which means a lot more demand down there. Big news. International airport should be opening in the coming year. The runway is already done. And with the international airport, Marriott and RIU International Hotel Group are planning to open up. 2010, 2011 is going to bring cruise ships. Carnival, the vice presidents and CEOs of Carnival Cruise Line, Holland American Cruise, just 2 months ago were down in Puerto Penasco negotiating with the governor. And they want to make Puerto Penasco their Sea of Cortez home port. For the Pacific, they have San Diego. For the Florida and Caribbean, they have Miami-Fort Lauderdale. Well, the Sea of Cortez, that role is going to be played by Puerto Penasco. And that's going to be a huge boost to the market. And a pretty fun thing for everybody here to have in their backyard. So, Mardi Cortez. Excuse me? Where they're looking at? Yeah, they are going to be doing studies. It's either going to be in Cholla Mountain or behind Whale Hill. Now, I think it's probably going to end up near Whale Hill. That's what's best for development and best for the people who live there and the thing that's going to keep the downtown vibrant. Some big developers are going to push to maybe move it over close to where they're developing. It's what developers do. And we'll see how it comes out. But my prediction is that it's going to be near Whale Hill in the Old Port. Sure. Coastal Highway is done. And another exciting thing is what we heard about earlier, is that a whole new level of development is coming into the market. And Tessoro is really the vanguard of this, bringing the first true Puerto Vallarta or Cabo level project into Puerto Penasco. And have some of the proud owners here tonight. Might have one or two of them say a few words. And it is just a neat project I'm proud to be consulting with and supporting, and happy to tell you guys more about. And just a final thought, everybody's worried about real estate these days, and we're going through an interesting phase. All of the analyses that I do make me ask the question, is Puerto Penasco actually underpriced? Luxury beachfront in San Diego, LA is $800 to $1,500 a square foot. High-end Scottsdale condominiums, $500 to $1,000 a square foot. Yes, there's still people asking $1,000 a square foot in Scottsdale. Luxury beachfront in Cabo San Lucas, $600 to $1,000 a square foot, and they're not going down at all. The top beachfront projects in Puerto Penasco are $275 to $375 a square foot. So a little thing to keep in mind as you go through. So I thank everybody for listening. If you have any questions, love to answer them later on. And if anybody has questions about Tessoro in particular, introduce everybody to Tim Smart, who is in charge of sales up here in the United States and Canada, and a longtime expert on Puerto Penasco. He's been there a lot longer than I have and really knows where all that's going on down there.